Good evening, intrepid listeners. I feel like I need to come in here real quick and apologize for the general sound quality of my own voice in this episode. We tried something a little different with the recording, and I didn't realize it until afterward that my voice was peaking a lot. I've since fixed it, and so it's not like loud or obtrusive, but the quality has dipped a little bit. So I want to apologize for that. I still think the episode is good and totally salvageable, but your mileage may vary when it comes to the quality. So bear with me. It's good. I promise. And here comes the bullshit.
So remember when we told you about we saw a mouse in our house and all that? We think it left.
Yeah, we haven't seen it in a couple days.
And not only that, like, we turned our whole living room upside down. It is nowhere to be found. Like, we were, like, moving shit, and it's like, there's no sign of it anywhere.
No mouse poop, no chewed things. None of our traps have been sprung. I swear, we're going to lose our minds, and we're going to turn into Nathan Lane by the end of this.
Jesus Christ.
I would leave the traps where they are just in case it comes back.
That's
Yeah.
kind of our
cool.
plan.
I found my notes from the Bye Bye Man.
Excellent.
My top note is I am baffled this was released as a finished product.
Have you seen anything since Bye Bye Man though that you think would make Bye Bye Man look like a good film? Though?
I know what he's
Yeah, we saw Slender Man.
Oh, that's there you go,
yeah.
Slender Man.
What about cats?
That's a different beast.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the Cats movie, but that's a different beast.
Hey, can we? Do you think if we invited the cast of Cats over here, they would get the mouse for us, or would they just dance around creepily?
Yeah, it'd be I think it would do a lot more harm than good.
Well, then the mouse would. What would happen is the mouse would still be here, but it would have a human child's face.
Oh God. Why would you? Why? Okay, I'm gonna have nightmares tonight, and it's all because of you, you jackass.
Well, either way, I think it's gone. But now I'm gonna have nightmares that I'm Nathan Lane, and this is all Mouse Hunt.
Mhm. So I basically looked up a bunch of like tricks to like see what else to prevent any mice from coming in. Apparently, peppermint oil, but it has to be very strong peppermint oil.
So our house smells vaguely like mint chip ice cream.
Yeah. But apparently they hate the smell. Like and I've looked through all these source and articles. They said, yeah, peppermint, they hate that smell.
Is that the sprayer right there?
Yeah, that's the spray right
If
there.
I spritzed it right in my mouth, would I die?
I mean, it would probably not taste good. It's peppermint and water mixed together. So
Yummy. Welcome to Undercooked Analysis, where I try peppermint water.
Do it.
Yeah, it's going to taste bad. It's going to be...
I really shouldn't, honestly. Hey, future David, can you edit it so it sounds like I did it? No, just kidding. If this is your first time on our podcast, I'm going to stop apologizing. You should have gone back to some of the earlier ones to figure out what we're doing. But if not, hey, this is a show where we read stuff and then talk about it. Usually internet-related horror stories or horror stories that are released on the internet. They don't always have to be about the internet. This one does not seem to be about the internet, and actually was a story that we were submitted during our last live stream. But I'll get to that in just a moment. I am your beleaguered, exhausted front man of this band, David King. Seated right next to me is my partner and long-suffering wife, Kaela.
Hi.
Somewhere in the far distance is that legendary unicorn, Alan Cheney.
That is me.
And I think under my bed somewhere is Seid.
I'm not under the bed. I'm just in the spare bedroom.
Oh, okay. I was wondering why I was hearing noises up there.
Oh, that's what the scratching is. It's not the
mouse. It wasn't a mouse. It was Seid the whole time. Seid, why do you scamper across the floor and freak us out at random intervals?
It's old habit. Sorry about that.
And by the way, you might want to lay off whatever you're doing because you got really small. Like you're so tiny.
Well, I think Seid is the exact same height that I am, actually.
Yeah, but like Seid could fit under our refrigerator now.
Oh my God.
So, on that note, we have a story we're going to read called Channel 1. This was submitted anonymously to us to be read on the live stream, and we started to read some of it, but realized it's a longer story, and we were in the midst of doing a lot of stuff at the time. But this feels like a little bit of a return to form because the author, who wanted to remain anonymous, basically seems to have written a pseudo lost episode story. So this kind of feels like we're going back to our roots a little bit, you know?
Mm-hmm. By the way, the live stream was for the Bail Project. It was a charity live stream, and I'm saying this because we'll probably put on another one in August. So if you missed the last one, look forward to the next one.
We actually made $1,300.
Yeah.
$1,300.
We raised $1,300 for the Bail Project. So
I'm so proud of us. And I'm really, really grateful to everybody who listened and donated during that stream. Like, you guys mean the world to us. So
yeah, it was a really successful stream, and it is up on the Creative Horror YouTube page for anyone who wants to still check it out.
yeah, as will this, eventually will be on the Creative Horror YouTube page. I'm just taking my sweet time re-uploading the entire backlog of this podcast as well as Midnight Marinara. But usually this is the kind of plugs we do at the end of the episode. Do we want to just dive right in to the story?
Yes, it is fairly long, and we are starting rather late. So
That's true.
I'm gonna wait till the almost midnight hour.
Why don't we do this in the order I kind of introduced us? So me, Kaela, Alan, Seid.
Okay.
Are we good with that?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Remember a time before television was completely digital? It wasn't that long ago, but many people seem to have forgotten about the analog signals Many people seem to have forgotten that analog signals were the standard. To the outside viewer, one might not know the difference between the two. I probably wouldn't have known the difference myself if it wasn't for my parents' large antenna behind our house. It was the size of a car, and the space it required took a good quarter of our backyard. My dad loved television, and his job allowed him to afford whatever expense for his addiction. I remember there was a TV in every room of the house, even in the bathroom. Okay, good. As we said during the stream, I think this is actually a decent start.
Now, one of the things we talked about was how realistic is this? Because there's a part of me that I'm wondering how old this is, because later on they're going to mention. Okay, I'll continue reading and then.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I will say TV in every house just sounds like every bar that you visit these days.
No, you'd be surprised. There are some places I visited that like they had a TV in every single room. Actually, my parents were television addicted, and there was a television in every room at one point. There was a point where my mom said, "I'm tempted to put a television in our bathroom." Like that's how much they loved it.
Then you just never leave the bathroom ever.
My room was no exception. The television was an older television cabinet, one of those with the TV built inside and had the fake drawers. It was originally our living room set, but since Dad had upgraded to a 42-inch CRT, I inherited it. I guess he was tired of kicking me out of the living room when I was playing video games. Ironically, I never was much into television myself. It was never interactive enough for my taste, and I hated someone just telling me a story. Usually the TV in my room would be on Channel 4 for my Nintendo. On rare occasions, I would turn it onto Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon when I was particularly bored with jumping on anemones. Apparently there's a video game where you destroy aquatic creatures.
It's called Echo the Dolphin.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
But that's not a Nintendo game, so okay.
But that was about it. I was still appreciative of the set, however.
Honestly, having a television with like fake cabinets and drawers and stuff is kind of bitching.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember seeing TVs like that and going like, what other secrets does this thing have? While never thinking to actually try and pull the drawers open.
Yeah, there's a point where like the time period is, I think early 90s is what they're talking about. But then it's hard to gauge. But at the same time, the writer sounds like they know what they're talking about. Even if this whole thing was a complete lie and this wasn't as truthful as I thought, the author talks about it with conviction. So
Yeah, no, it's working out. Honestly, so far, and plus, like again, I think you're right about the time period because they're playing Nintendo. I'm presuming that's an NES, not like a Super Nintendo, but it could be a SNES.
Mhm.
But that helps define what it is. But yeah,
Yeah.
Alan,
Hi.
It's
Hi,
your
Alan.
turn, Alan.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn,
Okay.
Alan. Do it all in a whisper.
Thank you. This is the ASMR.
I'm going to brush my hair into the microphone, and I hope this will calm you.
I recall
Yeah.
I recall there were 120 channels on the dial of my TV. I'm that weird guy who anytime I see TV, I almost say television.
Good, because you're a man of sophistication and taste.
Because of the placement of the channels, it was easier to go backward to get to the channels that I would want to watch rather than going forward. However, this way, there was a lot of what I called ghost channels. They were mostly shows that didn't come in quite right. I'm not exactly sure why they were there. Maybe the signal wasn't quite strong enough, or maybe it had something to do with how it was connected to the antenna. Most of them were just static, where you could just barely hear any talking, but I could never quite make out what it was saying. Almost every channel from 80 to 120 was one of these ghost channels. I started getting actual programming around channel 80 or so, but Nickelodeon was 78 and Cartoon Network was not so far behind. Looking back, turning the channel this way saved at most a couple of minutes of my life, but it made me feel pretty efficient as a child, even if I had to hear annoying static.
Annoying static.
That's the only thing that doesn't feel realistic to me is the 120 channels.
I remember a time when I had to deal with that, though. Honestly,
But-
like flipping through a lot of channels that were just
Yeah,
static.
I
with
think it
barely
would depend on like your cable package.
presuming. Well, I mean,
But
this is
they're-
an antenna package, right?
Yeah, this is antenna. If it was
Well, yeah.
cable, then wouldn't it be
Okay,
digital?
yeah, that's true. I think you're
I think
right.
cable TV wasn't always. Oh wait, or was it always digital?
I don't know.
No, I think I am
No.
thinking antenna because I remember like when I lived with, we had cable with my aunts, but then when we went to visit my stepfather before, like when he was like on his own, he had antenna and he would like flip through all these channels and like a lot of them were just like I wouldn't call them ghost channels, but it was just like black, no like nothing there.
Yes, that was the same with my grandparents' place too. My grandparents didn't have cable, so I would just flip and there'd be random static channels too. But
Well, I guess it's a really good
Um,
antenna TV because it's getting Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, which I
Yeah,
thought were
that's the
okay. That's the
weird
main.
part.
That's actually the main thing we talked about. Now that I remember, those are cable channels.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it?
How are they getting Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network on antenna if they're cable channels?
Again,
Again, we're also not experts on like cable TV and antenna TV, so
This is despite having grown up when I would like until around the age of 10. I think I had cable TV
yeah.
for a number of years.
Oh, I had cable for a good chunk of my life.
I only had it for specific periods. So.
My parents were addicted to television, so they had no problems getting like the Dish network and like getting cable because they needed TV. Actually, there was a point when when my mom was living with me and she's like, "No, I need cable," and I'm like, who the heck watches cable? This was like 7 or 8 years ago, and she's like, I need to have television. I want to add that to the package. I'm like, okay, you're the only one who watches TV on regular television anymore, but all right. Wait, is it?
I think
It's my
it's
turn.
Seid
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But one of the stranger ones was one I called Channel 1. The dial on the television didn't have 1 labeled. Sorry, I need to wake up before I start reading. But one of the stranger ones was one called Channel 1. The dial on the television didn't have 1 labeled. I've been told on some TVs this was the U channel, but I guess it functioned the same. It went from 2 right around 200. It went from 2 right around
120.
200.
I don't blame you for being
120.
thrown.
Why am I saying 200? Sorry.
Well,
Why do you guys make me record so late?
It's not. I make you. I mean, we were
I
we're trying to be accommodating here. Can I just say I think what's throwing you is the fact that the first sentence has but one of the Stranger Ones was one I called Channel 1.
Yeah, okay.
That would throw anybody.
However, there was definitely an audible click in between them. The channel was always was. So it's not just me, right? The channel
No,
it's not you.
those are that's grammar.
The channel was just complete static. The other ghost channels would have an actual channel trying to push through. One channel wasn't a ghost channel, it was a dead channel. No sounds of talking, no picture forming, nothing like the others, just complete static. None of the other televisions in our house even had a channel 1. For some strange reason, I always felt bad for the channel. It seemed like it was forgotten. I'm not sure why I had a strange empathy for a television channel of all things, but I always slowed down as I got closer to it, just to acknowledge it was there.
Even if like some of this isn't realistic, they say it with enough conviction that I believe it. You know what?
The voice of the that we're hearing is very natural.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's why it sounds so convincing.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where it's actually taking the tropes of you would normally find for something like some creepy media or a lost episode and is handling them pretty well, handling them that like tropes and not like cliches. You know what I mean? I'm actually kind of curious to see where this is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I guess let me make sure I'm on the right paragraph. Here we go.
Yep, that's it.
I guess to call it a dead channel was wrong of me, though. Rarely there would be something on Channel 1. I remember the very first time it happened. It was summer, and I was on vacation from school. I was watching Nickelodeon until Nick at Night came on. I didn't really want to watch a grandma show, as I not so affectionately referred to the black and white syndication that ran on the channel after dark.
How dare you?
Screw you, Gilligan's Island would come on. I was bored and not ready for sleep, so I had started turning the dial to play a game of Super Mario Bros. 2. Okay, it's a Nintendo. He has a Nintendo. Or they do.
They said they had a Nintendo.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
Or you mean an NES?
Well, now we know it's an NES, because Super Mario Bros. 2. I was going past the channels when I noticed an old black and white program flicker right before I reached Channel 4. As I said, there would be times when the other ghost channels would have something on them, but never have I seen something in monochrome, and most definitely never on Channel 1. I could have sworn that's where I seen it. That is throwing me. That's where I seen it. I slowly turned the dial back bit by bit until I got to that empty space. Sure enough, something was there. Dun dun dun.
I don't remember any of the exact details at the time. I was fairly young, and a bit confused, and my grasp on all the grown-up language was pretty limited. I remember an older man, black suit and tie, reading a sheet of paper, speaking into a microphone with a fairly bland background. His voice seemed distinguished and educated. At first glance, it was obvious he was a newscaster, but the things he said didn't make any sense to me at the time. I vaguely remember he was talking about something with World War II. It was about the Pearl Harbor attack and evacuations of civilians in areas that might be future targets. It was fairly serious sounding, and I recall being fascinated and confused. About 2 minutes in, the signal faded back into empty static.
Nice, kind of unsettling, but not anything too oblique.
I like the picture associated with it.
The newscaster.
Is that from a real thing?
Probably the image. Although, again, if it's talking about the Pearl Harbor attacks, there's that anachronism because it's 1942. There wouldn't have been a television newscast for it.
Mm-hmm.
Television didn't.
Yeah, the image just looks like they overlaid the static on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, like extra points for because there's multiple images that we already know because we read most of it earlier. But yeah, the extra points for just adding those image details because it does add to the story, I think.
Yeah, I dig it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm into it so far.
Mm-hmm. This is probably not going to be a very funny haha episode because we're already just kind of this is working. There's not other than a couple grammatical things. There's not a ton to poke at this one, honestly.
Also, I feel like for the first portion of the story, we've kind of already talked about it a bit more from the live stream.
Yeah,
we might be a little more excited and saying things when we get to the part we actually haven't read yet.
Yeah, we'll be getting into new territory there, so we'll see what happens.
Right. Is it me?
Yes.
Thinking about it now, I would have been really creeped out that this happened. But my childlike wonder left me intrigued. It seemed fairly normal to me since old shows ran all the time, and I figured why not the news as well? I figured Channel 1 was just an old news station that rarely ever came in. However, because of this rare occurrence, I became fascinated with Channel 1 and wanted to see what else would pop up. I sat there watching the static for an hour, but nothing happened. Disappointed and almost lulled into sleep with the white noise, I went to bed defeated. However, that moment made me obsessed with seeing something else on this secret channel. I felt like I'd seen something that I wasn't supposed to see. Or something that no one else had ever seen before. It was as if Channel 1 acknowledged my existence in return.
Do we find that a little too ham-fisted, or is that okay?
No,
I can accept
with
it.
Okay.
I'm with it. It's not Jera symptoms. It's a kid being like, ooh.
I'd kind of like a little more to justify like what seems to like almost immediately become an obsession with finding something else.
Yeah, I think a couple more things should have happened before they became more obsessed. Like maybe not just a newscaster, but then something else, and then this happened. But I do know that like I used to know someone who would like put on a TV show, but have it set to sleep, or it would go to static, and that's how she fell asleep. I don't know how. I just remember I like spent the night at her place, and then I would like occasionally wake up and there was like static on her TV, and she was fast asleep. And I'm like, this is interesting. So yeah, it surprisingly white noise could easily put someone to sleep.
I could see it. I think it's also because like I think maybe we'll get more lead into that, like why the obsession works as we keep going. But it could.
When he says obsessed at this point, I think maybe because of the next line in the start of the next paragraph, it's not 100% like obsession, and that he's like fixating on this channel all day long.
Yeah.
Like, the start of the next paragraph, when I was bored and didn't feel like playing video games, I would turn the TV on to channel 1 just to see if anything else would force its way, blah, blah, blah. I'll keep reading in a moment. But yeah, so it sounds like it became an obsession, but this was maybe the starting point where it was like more of just a curiosity is where it started.
Gotcha.
It's curiosity, less an obsession.
I guess the obsessed probably wouldn't have been the best word to say. However, that moment made me obsessed. I think it says
maybe the starting point of my obsession.
Yes, I think that could have been worded a bit better to show that. But
like I said, a few grammar things, but not anything serious at this point.
Mm-hmm. So far, so I'm still on board.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay, when I was bored and didn't feel like playing video games, I would turn. I can hear tea. Someone turning a tea.
Nope. Gracie, come here.
Oh, is it Gracie?
That's our dog drinking water out of a bowl.
It sounded like someone.
Come here, honey.
Stirring a teacup.
Let me take your.
Gracie had to chime in.
Here we go.
Gracie needed a water break.
Grace is trying to send us to the sunken place.
Yeah, that's. I took off her collar, so. There you go, honey.
I would turn the TV on channel 1 just to see if anything else would force its way through the dead static. It drove my parents crazy to have me listening to that harsh white noise most of the time. It eventually drove them to the point where they would demand that I either change the channel or turn it off, threatening to take the TV away if I didn't. Humorously, I remember getting the talk from my father because he thought I stumbled on the scrambled channel, only to find out that wasn't the case. But they never believed me when I told them what I saw, claiming that Channel 1 didn't exist.
Disbelieving parents, but rational reason for it. Again, it's fine. I'm kind of down to push through till we get to the parts that we haven't read before. What do y'all think?
Yes.
I have not read any of this.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. So, what do you think?
What are your hot takes so far, Alan?
Yeah, I'm really digging the setup a lot so far.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's something anyone can identify with, just there being blank channels with static and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Whenever I got blank channels with static, it was usually like it would either look vaguely like a shopping channel or something in Spanish. So
yeah.
So, but despite these threats, I intently watched. Most of the time with the sound turned down just enough that I could hear it. The rubber bands inspired me. Them telling me not to watch it, even denying its existence, only made the curiosity worse. I watched it for weeks over the summer. Most times it would be nothing, but eventually my efforts paid off. I recall 4 more incidents of something coming up on Channel 1 after that day that I remember seeing that strange newscast. These events were a week or two apart at completely random times of the day. Each of these only lasted for a minute or two before they faded away.
The first one that I saw was a cartoon of all things. Through the faint static, there was an image of a sun that was breathing fire on the land, causing the water to dry up and the plants to die in a cartoonish way. There was no voice acting, only a narrator that talked over the show. I could barely hear him through the static. From what I could tell, there was a Native American village that was dying from the heat of the sun. A Native American boy tried to give animals water, but all that was left was a drop. Before the plot could develop any further, the whole thing faded into static. When I was little, I'm not sure if this ever happened to you guys, but did you not understand certain TVs do not have the same channels as you? And then there was a point I went to my grandparents' house and I'm like, what? Why isn't Cartoon Network working? I remember that happened the first time. I'm like, oh, but we don't have that. But it's on 37. It doesn't exist here.
Yeah, I remember that happening when I visit my grandparents. Eventually I had to learn, where the channels I wanted were on different people's TVs.
Yeah.
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 Is it me again?
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
Believe it or not.
Cool.
The second time.
Yep. The second time was the newsman again. This time, talking about a rather terrible story of a young girl who was murdered in a park somewhere in California. He made brief mention of the scene, of how her body was discovered in 2 different locations, though the details were intentionally vague. He made mention of a police investigation not turning much of anything, and he demanded that if I knew anything about it, to contact the authorities. I remember he said something like it was a Black Daisy murder or something to that effect, before the scene faded into the static.
Is this supposed to be a reference to the Black Dahlia?
I think that's what I was trying to hint at.
Yeah. Misremembering it because of the static.
Yeah. Well, it did happen. It happened in California. I think it was at a park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Found in multiple places. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is such a dark story.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, that was in 1947.
Oh, I think you're right. When did the Black Dahlia?
Oh, while you're
I look up the Black Dahlia.
That, Seid.
Yes, sorry. I was just trying to think, because it sounded like you said it was the same newscaster, and I was like, well, how long was the Black Dahlia murder?
1947. Yep, it was at Merritt Park in Los Angeles.
Yes. Never remember numbers.
So this is an anachronistic newscaster.
Well, the interesting part is the first one was about
Pearl Harbor 31.
And then now I don't know what the second one is.
The cartoon
that's going over my head, but it could be easily a cartoon from the 1940s. But the third one is clearly
so we know 2 of these so far are in chronological order. We don't know if the cartoon takes place in that order. I really want to know if they're referencing an actual cartoon, and I want to say they might be if the 2 other events are actual events that they're referencing. Okay, the third one. The third one was what seemed like an old weather report. I remember someone besides the newscaster talking about how the cold weather was great for the season. He mentioned the low temperatures and the snow falling. It was a very stark contrast to the humid summer heat I was dealing with. I honestly don't remember much of this because I believe this one came in at 3 a.m. And I only caught it due to the static cutting out and waking me from a dream. It was a should I read that line? Because I think we
No, the line's in there. I think we just got to read it verbatim.
Okay. It was Doctor Who and the Censorites.
So I'm not even sure if that line is supposed to be there. We kind of talked about it during the stream because it seems kind of weird and out of place.
Yeah, after we got through the next paragraph or 2, we were like, that one line up there didn't.
Yeah, because it basically describes what the next one is.
I wonder if that line was meant to go in the image caption, because we have that image caption next to it.
Oh yeah, it could, or it could also be a note the author left in there for themselves,
possibly too. All right, well, let's keep going.
Okay, yeah. The last we're now getting to the point where we're catching up. The last broadcast I caught though It was rather disturbing and different from anything else I ever seen. Before then, everything I had seen was at least recognizable. But what came across the last time was too frightening for my young mind. It was some older man in a nice outfit and a monocle looking thing in his hand. I distinctly remember he spoke with a thick accent of some kind. However, the static distorted his features where I could not see any face. But what was worse were the creatures he was talking with. They had distorted skulls, long faces, and slits for eyes. I don't remember seeing noses or mouths, but their skin was leathery and dark. I remember they were aliens of some kind, but not having any exposure to sci-fi, they looked like burn victims. The static was just thick enough that I could not even make out any details to relieve the stress in my mind. Yeah, the stories people tell about hiding behind the couch when the Doctor Who theme came on, like as a almost Pavlovian kid response to that show, was because so there were some scary things on there for like kids in the 60s and 70s when it first started.
Doctor Who came out in 1960s, if I recall.
63 actually.
So yeah,
oh man, I just looked up when this episode came out. I think it said 67.
Oh, Doctor Who and the Sensorites?
This specific episode. I think it said 67, or it might have been 64. I already forgot because I moved on to trying to search this for this cartoon.
I think it's all good. I think this would have been the first Doctor, but I could be wrong. Kaela is also furiously.
I'm trying to look up and see if this cartoon exists, like a sun burning village. Maybe it's 1940s, but oh man,
sounds like almost like a Hiawatha.
If we go with the assumption that it aired between 41 and 47, then it has to be a 40s cartoons. I know we had like the Superman cartoons back then, so sorry.
Look up.
I'm getting distracted. My Flesh brothers.
It's all good.
I can.
It's your turn.
Okay, I can read and.
Okay, I was
and I will start.
I was going to say, I suggest looking up since it said it's mostly a narrator and no one's talking. Look up. There's a Disney cartoon that is Hiawatha. Hiawatha, and it does have it's a little Native American boy. I don't remember more of the story than that, except that all the audio is done with a narrator. None of the other characters or animals have dialogue. As a child?
As a child, this vision scared me so much that I remember leaping out of my bed, turning the TV off as quick as I could. I ran into my parents' bedroom crying, trying to explain what I just saw. They didn't believe anything I said about Channel 1. They played it off as it was just static, and my eyes were playing tricks on me, before berating me about watching Channel 1 again. Since then, I had always gone the long way around the dial. I made damn well sure that I stayed away from Channel 1 as much as possible.
Okay, and now for those of us who are reading on the stream, we are now in brand new territory.
Oh.
How you feel about it so far, Alan?
Yeah. I like it a lot so far. That was I don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to gather my thoughts.
That's okay.
I don't.
It's late.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know if I buy into the whole immediately just too scared to ever go back to it either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it depends on how old the kid is.
Mm-hmm.
But
actually, yeah, we don't know how old this child is. I mean, if they were 7, even then, it's like they had this curiosity, and then all of a sudden something creepy happens, and then.
Maybe I was just a weird kid, but I'd have been all like, "Fuck yeah!"
Well, especially how often do you get to watch, as presumably this is in America, how often would you get to watch Doctor Who episodes just on antenna TV and not on like PBS? Yeah. Especially Doctor Who and the Sensorites.
It's good shit.
Yeah.
As a child. Hey. Fortunately, I didn't use that TV for much longer, as I had gotten new TV for Christmas that year, as well as a Super Nintendo. Undoubtedly, they bought this for me to alleviate the issues I had with Channel 1. This TV didn't have the ghost channels, and not even a way to access Channel 1. However, the old TV was still in my room due to it being fairly useful as desk. Fairly useful as desk to put the new TV on top of. Okay. Besides, that TV cabinet was roughly 600 pounds, and my parents had no desire to drag that thing out of my room. For a long time, the TV just went unused, and Channel 1 was completely out of my mind at this point.
Did we switch order?
Did we?
Wait, didn't I said something, right? I read the last one, didn't I?
Yeah, so that was
Seid.
Alan's paragraph.
Oh, was that? I thought Alan read.
Nope, I just said a bunch of shit.
Welcome to overly tired analysis. This is not a slumber party. We're doing this on a Sunday night. Some of us have to work in the morning.
I have to work in the morning.
It wasn't until 15 years later that old TV would be used again. I had inherited Dad's flat-screen TV from his room after he got yet another upgrade. It was nice, but it only had composite cables, no plugs for an RF adapter. By this time, analog on televisions was being phased out for digital, so there was less and less need for those coaxial cables. Didn't really bother me, because every other console I had supported it outside of my old Nintendo. I knew there was a composite cable option, but I never bothered investing in it.
Narrator knows their shit.
Yeah, this person, again, they say it with such conviction, you can't help but believe them. But
yeah, and honestly, the rationale for like when stuff actually happens like makes sense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so the setup is great. I'm really digging this. But one day, I just had this urge to play Super Mario Bros. 2 again.
Gotta throw them nips.
yeah.
You guys don't call turnips nips.
Oh my god. Oh,
did we have that discussion about like someone I follow on Twitter referring to selling turnips as going to sell nips?
Yeah, my friend refers to them as nips. He'll be like, "How your nips doing?" And I'm like, "Please don't say it like that."
Hey, are your nips frosty today?
I can't wait until we get into winter for Animal Crossing to say that.
Got my frozen nips ready to sell.
You know, David's nip went rotten this today, and
yeah, I found my nips all covered in ants.
God damn it.
a fly was just buzzing around his nips.
You know, I wish there was a better word. There's just no good word for nips.
No.
I just plugged in the TV cabinet and plugged in the Nintendo. It was simple. The old Nintendo RF adapter, as well as the antenna cable, was already in the back. I had no desire to move the heavy TV to unplug it, even after all these years using it as a desk. However, since my dad had moved on to digital cable, the only channels that were coming in were the analog channels anyone could get. The huge antenna in our backyard was still functional, so the quality of the signals was fairly good. I will say, interestingly enough, like if you want to play Super Mario Bros. 2, but you have a Super Nintendo, you could get Super Mario All-Stars and have the remake.
All-Stars, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking that was, fun fact, that was actually the first video game I remember playing like it for any length of time beyond just stuff that was in like arcades. I had a friend who lived next door, and he had Super Mario All-Stars with Super Mario World. So that my very first video game experience was playing the All-Stars version of Super Mario Brothers.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't own a console for many, many years, so that was my exposure to it. I think it is you, Kaela.
Curiosity consumed me as I browsed through the channel to see what we were still getting. After some clicking through more than 100 dead channels, there was one I needed to check. Of course you did.
Huh?
It was a good long time before I had even considered looking at it again, and I still vaguely remembered the creepiness of it. But now I just dismissed it as childlike imagination, as I was told it was. I turned the to channel 1.
I turned the nip to channel 1.
On first glance,
I twisted the nip.
Oh no! Oh God! That just pain flashed in my head. Jesus!
I'm sorry.
God, no, you're not.
Undercooked analysis. Twist the myth.
Listening to the podcast is like twisting a knit.
Oh my. Jesus Christ.
If you're into that sort of thing, it hurts good.
Welcome to Undercooked Analysis, aka Purple Nurples. On first glance, it was nothing but static, but there was something different in this static than it was all the other dead channels. It was harsh, almost scrambled. There was a strange, constant sound coming through. It's hard to explain. It sounded like someone was talking underwater. Every couple of seconds, an extremely high-pitched sound would come in and slowly fade, like the sound your ears made when they were ringing.
Yeesh.
Oh, I hate that. God, ears ringing sucks so much.
It really does.
When I used to go to concerts quite a bit, and just before going to sleep.
Oof.
I intently, sorry, I didn't intensely watch for a good minute.
I was intensely watching. My face was pressed up against the screen.
I intently watched for a good minute, trying to make out what was going on. I could see the video ever so faintly through the static. In my mind's eye, it was the news reporter, with the paper and microphone as I had seen about long before. I humored at the luck of stumbling upon something on Channel 1 after all these years.
I humored.
As I said, it was 15 years since I even looked at it, and I remember spending weeks worth of time for the random 2 minutes of content. Quite literally, what the fuck? Sorry. It's weird.
There's some odd grammar in this one.
Yeah.
No, not the grammar. Like, if you speak to the curiosity of childhood is one thing, but like spending weeks worth of time watching Channel 1 for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's
of something happening.
Good point.
It's
now I'm reading it more carefully, and I'm like,
oh, it was 15 years since I even so he would spend as a child spend weeks looking for it.
Yeah.
I got the impression that it was more like he would leave it on while doing other things, because there's a point where he said it woke him while he was sleeping. So it sounded like he just left it on while he was dozing off.
But that should be described a little better, though.
Yeah. I feel like the grammar mistakes and how clunky some of the wording is maybe English is not their first language, or they're not used to they're a fairly new writer. This is a very early story for them.
I'm thinking more it's a first draft.
Definitely a first draft.
I think as a story, it's not bad. Like, this is actually a very well done way to talk about a creepy television creepypasta. I guess it's not exactly a lost episode pasta, but it has that feel.
It's an eerie media.
Yeah. And it's done for the most part very well. It's just, I think another read through of this to just clean up the grammar and the clunky writing, and maybe he's thinking, adding some details so it sounds a little more realistic.
I mean, for the most part, it's pretty easy to suspend disbelief for a lot of this, but other parts I go, well, you're throwing me a little bit, and I'm with you, Alan.
Yeah.
The signal.
The signal.
The signal grew stronger. It became easier to make out, and eventually I was treated to a fuzzy picture.
It became easier to make out as the porn channel came through.
Aw, yeah. Things going into other things.
Lots of nips.
God damn it.
Went from throwing nips in Super Mario Brothers to seeing nips on TV.
However, as the picture started coming through, a sense of dread washed over me. It looked like the reporter, but something was deformed with his face. It looked disproportionate. His head was large. I'd say roughly 1.5 times the size of a normal human, making it very easy to see the details despite all the static. It had a shiny rubber texture to it and was expressionless. His lips were barely moving, and the eye sockets seemed dark and empty. It was as if he was wearing a cartoonish mask of himself. I was confused at first.
It was then that I realized I was watching the music video for Land of Confusion by Genesis.
I was confused at first, but then the whole face just changed expression, this time looking angry. The mouth seemed to grit non-existent teeth and the brow furrowed with a scowl. The mouth grew wide like a snake unhinging its jaw, then slammed shut, and his face turned completely neutral again. It seemed wrong. It wasn't quite a mask or a puppet. It was like someone was wearing skin that didn't fit.
Yeesh.
That is, and there's a picture here, and
How did they get the pictures?
that is uncomfortable to look at. Like, I can't. Yeah, it doesn't. It's puppet-like, but it doesn't. Look, how are you doing, Alan?
That says Newcaster.
My
All right.
Okay, so it's not totally.
It's not moving. That probably helps. His movements were exaggerated, his head bobbing up and down repeatedly as he talked. It wasn't in any sort of rhythm or motion, just completely sporadic. His hands were moving the papers in exaggerated motion as he flipped through them. On the papers, it was complete scribbles ran haphazardly across the page. Let that sink in. It seemed like as if something was imitating a caricature of the reporter, like a parody or satire. As he spoke, the strange reverse glubbing and harsh static coming through. A screech that sounded like a roar of a robotic elephant came piercing through the static that caused me to freeze in fear.
A thought just came to me, because we mentioned, like, during the 1940s, a lot of these would probably be radio broadcasts, not television.
Yeah.
What if these are all radio broadcasts in one way or another? Think about it. Like, there used to be like audio dramas like during that time too. That could have been what the whole cartoon Indian thing was, or Native American thing was.
Maybe. Oh, you know what? Come to think of it, Doctor Who has had lots of radio dramas too.
And then what
if Doctor Who and the censor rights was just a visual interpretation of a TV picking up radio signals and converting them into images?
And then here, if we remember, there's Charlie, the ventriloquist, and in a weird way, there's something quite creepy about a person saying, "I'm talking with a ventriloquist," and it's like you don't even see the dummy; it's on the radio.
And yet that's right.
It was like one of the most popular radio shows.
That's so weird. I remember that. I think you're on for the next one. So,
did you guys see that there's a little play sound thing?
I did see that. I'm gonna play it real quick. And future David, if you can edit this sound.
It's not letting me open it on my phone.
Oh, that is loud.
I'm turning it down. Is that better?
Well, I'm going to assume it's very scary.
Oh, that is uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That is creepy.
Yeah, wow.
Again, I'm going to assume it's very scary.
No one will see because I have my desktop.
Shit. Yeah, exactly. So it's probably better not. I will just trust. You'll hear it in the playback. Future David will edit it in.
It is.
Okay.
If he can.
Thank you, David.
That is. Yeah, I'm like, ugh, that makes me. Ugh. It is creepy. It's really creepy. It was then I noticed the other proportions. His hands were dangling, like it was like skin was hanging off the bone and had no real muscle structure to it, bending and folding nearly flat at some points. His pinky not moving at all, just dangling loosely. 2 fingers and the index and the thumb were no longer by a good inch. His limbs seemed unusually long, with his forearms disappearing behind the desk and his arms stopping all the way down. Even his body frame was disturbing, resembling long, nearly rail-thin proportions. Where did they get that, actually? That is a really good picture. Actually, that is a really good picture. It looks like an actual photograph, not a artwork.
I think this person either had some Photoshop skills or had a friend with Photoshop skills.
Yeah.
And they also added the sounds through static too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that they added all this media. It works for the story.
It adds to it, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He looked at the camera and you could see these strange-looking eyes just gazing right at you underneath the mask's dead eyes. I didn't realize that wasn't entirely in black and white, but I could see the cyan-colored orbs behind the slits, like the whole studio was washed from color rather than broadcasted in monochrome. His head suddenly twitched and shook violently. Then static overtook the image.
Ooh.
I was gonna read that one line. I refuse to read more.
No, you've just been abandoned by the wolves, or abandoned to the wolves.
Yeah, you've been abandoned by the wolves.
The wolves won't even take you.
You don't get to party with the wolves anymore.
Oh.
On he walked, and sometimes drove, and occasionally partied with the desert creatures, but not the wolves.
Yeah.
I was enthralled but frightened. My hand was still on the dial, frozen. I wasn't quite sure if what I was seeing was actually happening. Maybe it was my mind playing tricks on me and I was just seeing things through the static. I remember exhaling violently, as I had forgotten to take a breath the entire time that was going on. My mind tried to reason with itself. Maybe I just witnessed something and took it out of context, like I caught the last end of a Saturday Night Live skit. Hell, maybe I imagined the entire thing.
Rational, I suppose.
That's actually adding the last end of a Saturday Night Live skit. That's not a bad way to look at it. Like, they could be, I mean, there's parts of scenes that if you take it out of context, you're like, what the hell is this?
Well, think about, I mean, at Saturday Night Live skit, I thought, imagine instead of this scene, they see someone open a door and a giant exaggerated shark leaning forward and eating them. Oh, I guess that must have been the end of a Saturday Night Live skit.
Land shark, Andy Ray.
But just as I started to calm down and change the channel, I heard a voice that had been lost in my memory. It was the reporter. There was no image available, just static, and the voice was faint and barely intelligible from the noise. I had turned the volume up full blast just to make out what he was saying, and for some reason feeling like he could explain what I just saw.
His words were broken, with at least a second's worth of pause between them, and the tone from one word did not match the next, as if someone was using a soundboard. Even after a decade later, after hearing it, I could remember it clearly as yesterday.
Good morning.
Yes, I was just going to say use your chip voice.
Danger. Killing. Everyone. Earth. Time. 20. 29. Everyone. Evacuate. 20. 29. All dead. Good night.
And good luck.
Thank you, Dan Rather.
And I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
That's such a good film, by the way, on Network.
Yep.
I completely recommend it. Sorry.
No, it's for a second, Alan. I as you were reading that, all I could think of was like, well, Alan just became one of those like code radio stations.
Yeah.
Like a number station type thing?
Yeah, a number station.
Yeah, that was very good. There was a loud screeching roar followed by complete sound garbage.
I used to play bass for complete sound garbage.
We weren't in that band very long.
Painful, ear-piercing gibberish.
I played bass for them too.
Alan, did you play bass for Frosted Nips?
No.
No, they were assholes.
I vehemently turned down an offer from Frosted.
Okay, fair enough.
Probably because I had the TV on full blast to hear the faint speech. Then the signal just cut out completely. Normally there was a small fade to static, but this was an immediate feed cut. A feeling of nausea and worry overcame me, and I felt my tongue pulled back into my throat. I had trouble comprehending what I just saw, my mind racing miles per second. I gripped the dial so hard. I gripped the nip so hard that I had shattered... I had shattered the plastic casing underneath my fingers, and I didn't realize that I was bleeding.
That's a hard nip!
The hardest of nips.
Oh my god.
Oh man. Okay. I had let Channel 1 stay on for over an hour with loud static just to see if I could hear anything else, but nothing came up. I left it on for days, weeks, months. I had bought a DVD recorder to record when I slept and while I was at work. For almost a year of my life, I had spent hours with both televisions on.
What the hell?
One watching what I missed and one watching what might yet to be. I dreamed in static. I had nightmares of those horrible, disfigured proportioned doppelgangers of the newscaster. My entire life was consumed by this television. I was hoping, begging to hear anything. My God. But despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage.
You want to read that sentence?
Yeah, I just did. I mean, but despite my efforts, that was the last time I heard anything from that Channel 1.
Yeah, this obsession doesn't feel justified as much. You know what I mean?
Unless they're trying to make the argument that like the obsession is like a supernatural side effect of the channel.
Oh, maybe.
If that's a case, that should be noted a little. Well, who knows? Maybe once we finish it, I can.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it's a harder sell, so we'll see where. I'm curious to see where this story finishes and
how much more is there? Out of curiosity, not much.
Too much, yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't overstay its welcome.
My parents, which I was still living with at the time, became so concerned that they forced me to see a psychiatrist to explain it to me. He said I had some sort of psychotic episode from stress, that my mind had made up the whole event. Not once did he reassure what I might have seen could actually happen. He told me to quit watching Channel 1, but I refused. He tried to put me on medication, but I refused. Oh, God. He eventually ordered me to take the TVs out of my room, telling my parents that I shouldn't be allowed to watch the TV unsupervised. Again, I refused. It wasn't until my father eventually smashed the old TV and burned it while I was at therapy that my search was forced to stop.
Oh, no.
Oh!
That thing could fetch a pretty penny on eBay if it's in good shape.
I had spent some time. Zip, zip, flam, 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 boom, blim, blim, glam, flam. Yeah. I had spent time looking up what might have happened, searching forums, doing research, anything I could. The most common explanation I got was some of the old TV waves are sent out to space, and sometimes they and sometimes they come back if they bounce off a planet or something. That explained why I might have seen those old news reports, but I never got a good explanation on what I saw that day. My mind tries to wrap around the possibilities, but I never found any answers. Other than people who seem even crazier than I am. I've been told that it was aliens warning us about some asteroid coming to the Earth, with the government trying to cover it up. Some told me my TV was possessed by a demonic spirit offering me prophetic knowledge. Some told me it was the message from the future, peering through a wormhole.
I'll appear through your wormhole.
Jesus Christ.
Proud of yourself?
Yep. It's past midnight. I'd be proud of myself for anything at this point, as long as it involves staying awake.
Good. Real good.
And many told me that I was lying or that I was crazy, as if it was just some story I wrote for attention or to just scare people.
Lol. Meta.
Just a pinch.
It's a pinch of meta. I am not sure what I saw. I just know I've seen something that maybe I shouldn't have seen but did, or maybe it was something that was completely meant for us to see, but many just neglected the unlabeled channel. A channel that was completely removed from most TVs after that. I believe Channel 1 was trying to communicate something to me.
Another thought, because of that whole creepy part, I was thinking that maybe it might had something to do with like the Cold War.
Ooh.
Like that could be a broadcast from 1960s about the Cold War.
But a really distorted one involving a horrifying puppet version of the...
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just remember there was a point my grandma once telling me that in their small town, the lights went out.
Uh-huh.
And that's all that happened. The lights went out and everybody thought that like World War III had started. Like
it's the commies.
Yep, they all thought that. They were under their seats. They had freaked out. It was just the lights had like went out. That's it.
Was that the night the lights went out in Georgia?
No, this was
that the night they hung an innocent man?
Jeez. But yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised how freaked out people can be. Like, just by one little thing, and it's like, we're all gonna die. 29 minutes.
Yeah, I get you.
Every now and then, I desperately want to see what's on Channel 1 to hear any messages that might have been left out there, like some twisted obsession. But now analog TVs are a thing of the past. I couldn't even replicate the same setup anymore, at least not without hundreds of thousands of dollars. It might be impossible now. I just want to know if there were any other messages meant for us, things we might have missed. Thousands of minutes in my life go by, and each one containing a possible message, a warning that I might have missed, a narrative that I needed to hear.
I wonder if the change to digital was with best intentions for us. Was it just because of better quality pictures and less frequency pollution?
Yes.
Yeah. Or maybe something was seeing us, seeing our society filled with violence, murder, killing our planet, seeing our fingerprints passing through empty space, only for someone or something to pick up light years away. Or maybe...
Oh, sorry. I thought you left
it. Nope, you go ahead.
Or maybe the change was to prevent us from seeing what they were sending back.
Now, I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
You know.
And I'd like to read my favorite comment from the comment section of this one.
Okay.
From a fandom user. Tits.
Yes.
Yeah, I went there.
You know that would have more disappointed him? They should have said nips.
Well,
The story is actually fairly solid for a typical, but there's some things that need to be strengthened. Like, I don't think the obsession is justified at all.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of confused why it's like, oh, this is a message I needed to hear. What makes you assume that?
I feel like if there had been something in that last message that maybe connected to him personally, or like maybe hinted at something that,
yeah,
like if he had pieced together like, oh, maybe this might have been warning about this that I know happened, then the obsession would, I don't know. I feel, yeah, I need some more.
Mm-hmm.
More.
I mean, leaving it open-ended is totally fine. It's just...
Yeah, that's always fine.
Yeah.
I think the smart part about this that I do appreciate is the fact that it is using the whole switching to analog in a creepy manner. I haven't seen that before. Like, and it's true. That is something that did happen. We all switched to analog. Everything's gone digital. And to turn that into a creepy manner, it's like, oh, what if it's something... What if they did it for not just the better looking picture reason? Maybe there's something off-putting about it. I do kind of like that idea. That's not a bad idea.
I thought that we missed out on something because of our switching to digital. I do like that concept. I do like that.
I think the only thing that's throwing me is if these are all supposed to be broadcasts, TV broadcasts bouncing back, the Pearl Harbor and Black Dahlia murders would not have been broadcast.
No.
Because TV didn't exist in the 40s in the way it did, at the point where things could be broadcast. I mean, TVs didn't even really start to hit major prominence until like the late 50s. Early 60s.
When Pearl Harbor happened, everybody talked about how it was announced on radios.
I was thinking of radio signals. Those could be aired. By the way, according to the comments, the cartoon that was referenced is called The Adventures of Pow Wow. Has anyone ever heard of this?
I'm looking it up right now. It's an animated series that came out in 1949.
Oh.
Okay, maybe... Wait.
A lot of stuff from the 40s, weirdly enough.
Yeah, it was an animated cartoon that broadcast locally in New York City. Oh, it was on the Captain Kangaroo show during the 50s.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Oh, fast. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, this person knows their television history. Jeez.
Well, then, okay, maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm pretty sure. Well, I mean, there was not television broadcasts.
Well, when did
in 1942?
Television became available in crude experimental forms in the late 1920s, but it would be several years before the new technology would be marketed to consumers. After World War II, an improved form of black and white TV broadcasting became popular in the United States and Britain, and television sets became commonplace in homes, businesses, and institutions. During the
There we go.
1950s, television was a primary medium for influencing public opinion.
Thank you. That was the information
That's when society began to deteriorate. Sorry, what?
Dun, dun, dun.
So I mean, there's a possibility Black Dahlia was maybe
It's the Pearl Harbor thing that's throwing me. That's the main one. Which has that fun anachronistic bent, but I'm not sure what the author's intention was with that specifically. Although I do, again, and it's fine being open-ended and like open to interpretation, the weirdness of it. Like I think it's fine. I think it is a fine story.
I wouldn't mind.
I think there's, with some tweaking, I think it could be even better.
I think it would be nice to have it even more open to interpretation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I don't understand the obsession doesn't feel realistic. Like, why would someone there should be something that connects. You're right, Seid. There should be something that connects to him to this, to these broadcasts, like something.
Mm-hmm. Like maybe if he had mentioned that he pieced together from those earlier snippets that he caught. Oh, I think it was referencing the Black Dahlia. Oh, I think it was talking about Pearl Harbor. So that must mean the things that I saw later are something tangible. Mm-hmm. And I need to keep watching to find out what it is.
And that maybe that could be something too. It's like, if these are all actual things from television, maybe he's like, was this something on television as well? Like, I mean, maybe he could have, like, the obsession could have been to look up and see, did something like this exist on TV? Like, was there ever like this puppet thing? I think that would be the thing that would catch my interest if I mean, that's what I'm thinking now. If I heard all these, like, oh, wait, there's an Adventures of Powwow. There's a, that was on Captain Kangaroo. There was the Doctor Who episode. Okay, these are real things. What about this? Is this real? And then that could be
like slowly piecing it together over time.
Like,
yeah.
And maybe like then could go to the internet and be like, have you heard of this thing? I'm trying to see if this exists, if this is real. This weird looking puppet human thing.
Exactly. I don't know. This is but yeah, I'll give props to the author for this one, and I am curious to see if they revisit it at some point. And I understand it might have been an early one, but the attempt at trying to ground it in realism, I think, was pretty good. It uses its tropes well. Doesn't make a lot of cliche statements. Some of the details are creepy. I like the details of the puppet thing were creepy, but not like beyond, not with it showed restraint, I would say, in terms of showing a creepy thing. I think another strong point is the fact that this person talked about television like they really knew how it worked. Yeah, that's what I think is cool. That was probably one of the parts I liked the best about it. Even though I think the one thing that threw me off is like 120? Really? But you know what? They spoke like they knew what they're talking about. So it's like, hey, maybe that's how it was for them. So that said, how about our freshness ratings, gang?
Before I give a freshness rating, I want to say I just found an article on tvobscurities.com about a forgotten milestone, television, and Pearl Harbor, and I guess how apparently, TVs were really fucking brand new, but apparently there were 2 TV stations that might have reported.
Oh,
not with
no way!
Not with like live video, but
holy
in
shit,
some form.
That's
so. I'll link you to the article. I haven't read it. Just skimmed the first start of it, but I'll link you to it if you want to see it.
That must be like one of the first like television, like
The following essay, pieced together from a variety of sources, examines how 2 TV stations in New York City reported the news of the attack. This historical news coverage marked an important milestone for TV, but is lost forever.
Oh, and it's lost. Oh, that's even okay. Yeah.
Props. Okay. I give you props, writer. Wow.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, forget out. You know what? I wasted a lot of time.
Sorry.
I wasted a lot of time bringing that up. I thought I was being a real smarty pants, but
I'm so sorry I ever doubted you. Wow.
Well, no, you did have you had reason to speculate that because TV really was in its infancy back then.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that said, I'm going to give this my freshness rating of 120 channels out of a day that will live in infamy.
And I'm gonna give it a Land of Confusion out of a possible Philcon.
I'll give it 3 hard nips over 5 rotten nips.
I will give it the Max Headroom's incident out of the wait, was I thought this, why doesn't this channel exist on your station, Grandma? For those who don't know, look up the Max Headroom incident. It is fascinating. That was actually
it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's a mystery that still hasn't been solved today. Like someone took over a station and it just showed weird stuff and nobody knows who did it or how it happened. It's fascinating.
Bonkers. Real life, real good stuff.
That's like a real life creepypasta.
Oh yeah. Well, that said, I'm gonna go to sleep.
I'm gonna go to sleep with David.
Cool. Can I be Big Spoon for a change?
Absolutely not.
Aww. All right, fine. Hey, before I go and brush my teeth and put my footy pajamas on, I can't think of much to plug except, hey, while you're here, go check out, if you enjoyed what you heard on this podcast, please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to us. It's really appreciated. And while you're at it, check out some of the other cool shows we have on the Creative Horror Network. Things like The Witching Hour, Darkly Lit, Trick or Track, Midnight Marinara, and The Ghost Show that only exists in the static between podcasts.
Oh, that's my favorite podcast.
I know, it's so good. And is there
I'm
anything
tired. I took you seriously for a second. I was like, what Ghost Show?
Is there anything else anyone else wants to plug that I'm forgetting? My dog is scratching at the door and I need to go deal with her nonsense. Excuse me.
No, I'm good.
In that case, sweet dreams, everyone. Sweet dreams, everyone. I hope that creepy puppet dude doesn't pop up in your nightmares.
No, it'll just be a mouse with Nathan Lane's face.
Oh no!
It's gonna do numbers from the producers.
Good evening, intrepid listeners. This is the Pasta Shade, the host of Midnight Marinara, and this podcast is part of CreativeHorror.com, a network of podcasts and creators working together to build a constructive community of horror fans. For more content like this, visit us at CreativeHorror.com.